So, Ford, we're going to be talking tonight about the Joseph calling. And of course, you met Sam last week or a couple of weeks ago in Dallas for the first time, I think. And, you've had your own Joseph calling. And so, really the Joseph calling is found in Genesis 37. It's really a marketplace call. And I remember the first time I heard that, it was from my mentor, Gunnar Olson, in which he's spoken in my own life and said, "Oh, so you have a Joseph calling. It's both a spiritual and physical provider for others, and it's a marketplace call." And I'd never heard of that. And but you've had your own Joseph journey. And what do you see in this topic tonight that we're covering, especially where we are right now in the world?
Yeah. Well, Oz, I had what most people would call an extremely successful business career. And then towards the end of a lot of that high success, as you know, I had a major fall and I was suicidal and, held a gun in my hand, went to the bridge of the river. And, thank goodness, God, he called me out of that. And at that time, I was taking so many medicines. I was taking antidepressants, anxiety medication. I had spastic colon, irritable bowel syndrome. I was taking stuff from my liver, headaches nonstop, throwing up. And the doctors were just, loading me down with medicine. And I finally got toxic on some of the medicine. And so they had to change some of the subscriptions. And a little over 20 years ago, I met a natural homeopath, a chiropractor that did natural medicines, natural allergy cures. And basically within just a few months, I was off of all medications, 100%. And, even my psychiatrist told me that there's no chance you can stay off antidepressants based on your history of your family, your dad. And, the medical field just has a way of putting it. And I've not been back on them since. And I've stayed on that path. And, as I see where the country is right now, and even as I watch the ads on all the medicines with all the side effects, I've had most of them. And I see how we are, even in the country, at some point, something's got to change. My hope is that enough people with the Joseph calling, and I'll talk more about the medical stuff later if you want me to, but the more and more people that have been through that turmoil, is if they come out of it, and as they come out of it, if they can truly, really get and grasp how forgiven they are and how loved we are, and we can pass that love and forgiveness and that mercy and the grace, on to others that we've received. I do believe that we as believers can be the answer to what's going on in our nation right now. I believe that is a high possibility. And we are apostles. What's apostle mean? It's governmental authority in the marketplace. And so the more of us that come to that recognition, the more of us that work together, the higher chance that we can impact not just the business world, but the government world, the education world, and all the different spheres.
Yeah, so many times I get people ask me, can you give me a better definition of the Joseph calling? And what I would say, it's a calling that's earmarked by adversity, that you have gone through a season of adversity that seems almost extreme. In fact, you might be known by that adversity of what God has taken you through. And that's certainly, when we think of Joseph, we think of his 13 years of adversity and also being maligned and betrayed and misused, and just nothing justified what he went through. God turned my valley of Achor, which means trouble. That's the verse out of Hosea 2:15, into a door of hope. I went through a major crisis in 1994 that lasted 7 years. I lost my wealth. I lost my business. I lost my marriage. I lost a relationship with my own child. And it was a very, very difficult season. But we often talk about that. John 10:10 says Satan wants to steal, kill, and destroy from your life. And that's his mission. But the second part of that verse, John 10:10, says Jesus came to give you life and life abundantly. But sometimes uh, I remember someone once said, "It's hell in the hallway," in getting to that place of fulfillment of God's purposes and destiny for your life. And so we're going to talk about that side of it tonight. What God did with my situation is He really, through those 7 years of reshaping me, He turned me into a new person, really. I was given a new calling. God turned me into an author and a speaker and a equiper in 26 countries, and really helped me lead in the international faith and work movement. And He restored my finances. I was able to get remarried and restored my relationship with my daughter. So He's brought me full circle in that. And some of you tonight might be right in the middle of your Joseph uh, pit, as I call it. And some of you may just not be fulfilling the purpose that God wants you to fulfill. And some of you might be in this COVID situation where you've been tested. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe your income's gone down. Maybe, a number of situations that have affected your livelihood. And so some of the distinctives of the Joseph calling are, you know, you're persecuted for, well, first, let me comment specifically on Joseph himself. You know, I was looking at that story afresh this week, and I was reading the story again, and I saw something I hadn't really thought about before, and that was that he was persecuted for sharing a vision from God. All Joseph was doing was sharing what he was what he was dreaming and seeing. But because of the dysfunction in the family and because he was a rambunctious teenager, it got him in trouble. But the consequence of that certainly was not commensurate with the infraction. He was betrayed by those closest to him. And the devil surely tried to kill him because there was a destiny on his life. And God knew that. And so God had another plan. He was going ahead of Joseph. He lived in an extended season of adversity. It says to prove him true in Psalms, that God was proving Joseph. And then he was wrongfully accused a second time that led to even greater persecution. So he was accused or betrayed the first time by his brothers, and then he was accused and betrayed by Potiphar's wife. But he was supernaturally elevated by God after 13 years of that preparation for an 81-year assignment. I think we forget that he had an assignment that was 81 years. That's really remarkable, isn't it? And so when we look at Joseph, we're looking at a marketplace call. Now, he when we look at the life experiences of Joseph, he turned the world upside down overnight through that betrayal and personal crisis. He was forced to adjust to a new normal for several years. And, it's just extraordinary. Whenever we go through that Joseph calling, I recall just tonight, I was watching television and the announcer was talking about the new normal, and we all have to adjust to a new normal sometimes in our lives. And he was forced to serve in an ungodly administration. We're right now, we're trying to figure out who's going to be our next president. And 50% of America is struggling to adjust to an America that's moving off the cliff in our perception. And then there's another 50% that's excited about the possibilities of a new president. So we don't know the outcome of that yet, but what's the new normal for you and I? So let me just tell you a little bit about Sam's story. I met Sam about 15 years ago, and I was speaking with my board member, asked me to speak with him at an organization called Manna Relief. Now, at that time, Sam had already started a nutritional business that had gotten up to 400 million in sales. And the company was primarily had developed a product out of the aloe plant. And it had been so successful that the attorney general came after him and didn't believe that people were getting help so much from this product.
Okay, well, as Odd said, it's been quite the journey. It has been a Joseph journey, for sure. 1993, my wife and I, we'd been entrepreneurs, or I had been all my life, ran lots of very good, successful businesses. And we're just at a place in our lives, we had just dedicated our lives to the Lord. And we just wanted to serve him. So we decided we'd just pray about what next, Lord? What do you want us to do? And as we were praying, my wife started writing in her journal. And when she got through writing, she said, this is what God just spoke to me, that he was going to bless us with a Joseph company of provision that would touch the lives of people in all nations. And we would be called on to steward that for kingdom purposes. Oz, we had no idea what that meant. We were new Christians. Joseph company of provision didn't make any sense to me at all. About that time, though, I saw in Kansas City at a ministry called IHOP, they were having a Joseph Company conference. And I thought, well, I got to get up to that and see what that's all about. And when I got up there, no one really knew anything more than I did. They just said, what people are sensing is that there's a new movement of God in the marketplace. And over the next several years, God is going to birth several Josephs into the marketplace to bring sustainable solutions to the world's biggest problems. And they will do it for kingdom purposes. So that gave us comfort in knowing that we were on the right trail. We just really were waiting for that opportunity to come along. And if you could switch the slide. Ultimately, what happened, Oz, is this book came out, and it gave me a lot more perspective on what we were looking at and what we felt like God had called us to do. And it says on here, this is a book of hope that focuses on solutions to the world's problems that God will be raising up through his present day Josephs. And then the next quote on the next slide. And the mountain of economy in business seems to be the most logical or likely place for Josephs to show up. God will release Joseph's dreams to his children that will engender great medical breakthroughs. Diseases will ultimately bow to both, and that's an important word, both the healing power of God and to the biotechnological power of God in more ways than we know. These things are actually very connected. So what does that mean? It means that we know what supernatural healing is all about, but God designed our bodies to heal themselves. And then he provided plants and seed-bearing fruits for our sustenance. And the best explanation I heard of that, Oz, is in the 16th century, Paracelsus, the father of pharmacology, said everything that man needs to achieve and sustain health is provided by God in nature. It's the job of science to find it. And Oz, when science finds it, it seems miraculous. People cannot believe how their bodies respond because these molecules in nature that are so unique and so beneficial don't exist in medicine. They exist in nature. And so whether it's supernatural healing or the miracle of the human body to heal itself, they're all bonded closely together. So why is healthcare such an issue? Why is healthcare a place where a modern day Joseph might show up? Well, because it ranks right up there with one of the biggest problems in the world, especially here in the United States. In the United States, we spend 2 to 3 times more money on healthcare than anybody else in the world. We take over 50% of the prescribed pharmaceutical drugs, which is how we as society manage the symptoms of disease. And 6 out of every 10 people in our country lives with 1 or more chronic disorders. So we spend more money, we take more drugs. How are we doing? Is that model paying off? Well, according to this article on the Atlantic, not very well. We rank last in the top 17 countries in health of population, as well as we rank first in heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, chronic pulmonary disorders, obesity, disabilities. So we're not doing so good when it comes to health in the United States. And so as we've fallen behind, the question rises, are we doing enough? Can we transform sick care into a true healthcare environment? And that's really what we're talking about tonight. And that's the Joseph calling that came on my life. Focus on attacking the root causes of poor health versus medicating the symptoms of chronic disorders. And according to this book by Dr. David Katz, if you do that and you do it effectively, you can eliminate 80% of all chronic disease. Hey guys, that's a $4 trillion industry in this country. Okay, so this is where my story began. Several years ago, I was introduced to a pharmaceutical company. If you can go to the next slide. Oh, well, let me just say this. Back up real quick, Oz, to that book again. My wife wrote a book called Undeniable Destiny, a Modern Day Joseph Journey, which is really about everything that I'm going to talk to you about tonight. It is about the transformation of global health from a sickness paradigm to a wellness paradigm. So I was introduced to a company called Carrington Labs, Oz. In the late 1980s, they had made the discovery of the bioactive molecule in fresh aloe vera gel that gave aloe vera its rich reputation since the beginning of recorded time. It was known as the healing plant in cultures all over the world. Well, Carrington was raised hundreds of millions of dollars through a public offering. They identified the molecule. They spent over 100 million just on the research of this molecule that caused the immune response. It was named Acemannan, which is an abbreviation of its chemical structure, which is an acetylated beta-mannan. So Acemannan is the miracle molecule in aloe vera. The problem is that it was labile, which means all this incredible healing power that was in aloe vera went away in 24 hours. Nobody ever knew that. Yet all these aloe vera products on the market, not one of them had the mechanism of action intact that was responsible for its reputation. That's what Carrington discovered. And by stabilizing that molecule Acemannan, they were issued over 130 patents worldwide. Next. It turned out to be a polysaccharide, Acemannan. Poly means many, saccharide means sugar. There's 200 sugars in nature. This is a very unique sugar. It's actually called mannose. You've probably never heard of that sugar, but every cell in your body has to have access to it for proper structure and function. Your immune system depends on mannose to distinguish self from non-self or self from damaged self. So this little molecule called mannose is critical for a good functioning immune system. And here's something kind of interesting. It only exists in nature in high levels in two things. One is aloe vera gel. The other is human breast milk. I just find that fascinating. That's what turns on a child's immune system. You know, that's what gives a child a chance at life when they're born and they have not been exposed to all the viruses and bacteria. This little sugar, little polysaccharide made of mannose is what triggers that immune response. So what it does, its mechanism of action, is it activates a large white blood cell in your body called a macrophage. Okay, the macrophage are large white blood cells that orchestrate all of the immunological functions of the immune system. It's the front line of defense in your immune system. So when a cancer cell develops, it's the macrophage that sees it and orchestrates defense against it. When a pathogen comes into your body, whether it's a virus or a bacteria or a fungus, the macrophage sees it. So macrophages are absolutely essential for a proper structuring immune system. Again, as the slide says, they serve to detect and destroy and orchestrate the destruction of damaged cells. In 1994, I licensed the exclusive rights to stabilized Acemannan. And I brought it out from Carrington Labs as a dietary supplement that was called Manipul. And this is a little slide that is kind of interesting about why is mannose so important to the immune system. You see infection, and there's viruses, bacteria, and fungi. They all have these little glycan structures of sugars that stick off their surface. Why? So the immune system can detect that they don't belong. So your immune cells, like the macrophage and the bottom cell there called the dendritic cell, have what are called mannose receptors. See those little yellow, look like Y-shaped structures? They detect pathogens. And if you go to the right side of the slide, it shows the same thing with the tumor cell. Tumor cells express mannose on the end of their glycans. And that's why mannose is essential for the immune system to distinguish the good guys from the bad guys. But when the immune system becomes suppressed, it doesn't do such a good job. Viruses go undetected, and one day you wake up with a high viral load and a serious infection. These receptor sites, the reason I showed you that is they don't detect vitamin C, they don't detect echinacea, they don't detect bilberry, they don't detect any other nutrient that all claim to be immune supporting technologies. And by the way, any nutrient can be immune supporting because it's part of the whole effect of human physiology. But to specifically turn on the immune system requires mannose. And if you see at the bottom of that page, it says Acemannan. Acemannan is made up of mannose. That's why it has such a profound impact on the immune system. Okay, next. Along the way, Oz, it was kind of interesting. My wife and I, as part of our journey, started adopting children from all over the world. We were working with orphanage organizations, both financially supporting them as well as adopting children. And I was with an organization in Romania, and they were basically saying it's just heartbreaking to see what's going on with our children. They're sick all the time. We lose 30 to 40 kids a year. And I said, do you know why? And they said, yeah, our kids are malnourished. They're exposed to poor sanitation. Those are all immune suppressing things that happen to the body. And when the immune system becomes suppressed or dysfunctional, our children become susceptible to every kind of chronic infectious disease. So our kids get sick, they just never get better. And it's just a travesty. And I'm sitting here with Acemannan in my for-profit business. And I realized at that very moment what this whole Joseph anointing was about. It was to bring a technology in the world that could take care of the needs, of medically fragile people, but particularly the world's most vulnerable, these children. So I told the caregiver what I did, and I said, let me just send you this Acemannan in a powdered form. All you have to do is mix it into their food. And they were willing to do that. Over the next year, they did that. We reconnected at the end of the year. And they said, you're not going to believe what's happened to our kids. They're healthier than they've ever been. And for the first time in over a decade, not one child died. And as a result of that experience, we formed a not-for-profit ministry called Manna Relief. And over the last 20 years, Oz, we've sent out over 135 million servings of this Acemannan technology to children in over 90 countries of the world. So you can just go through a couple of slides here. These are kids in North Korea, the biggest famine the world has seen in the last 100 years. In Africa, we had kids with all kinds of chronic disorders, including AIDS and sickle cell anemia. And so what we do is we put Acemannan into a powdered blend that we call Hope Boost. And again, we send it out all over the world. Next. In Mexico, our distribution partners for this Hope Boost are the former president, Vicente Fox, and his wife, Marta. This is when we first launched Hope Boost at a press conference down there. Mrs. Fox introduced it to NGOs all over Mexico. Here's the challenge with the ministry charity model. I had millions of children around the world, or we did as a society, dying of immune deficiency related diseases. And I had the best technology in the world to provide to these children. I just couldn't raise enough money through the charity model. I mean, it's just not sustainable enough. And I was with President Fox several years ago, and he said, "Have you ever heard of the concept of social business?" And I said, "No, I'm not sure that I have." And he said, "We're holding the first social business conference in Mexico this summer. Our guest speaker will be Mohammed Yunus, who is the 2006 Nobel Prize winner or recipient for the creation of what is called microfinance. He's done more to address the issue of poverty in the world than anybody else. You need to come and determine how social business could change everything for the way that you are raising money." I started studying social business, Oz. I found out through the Stanford Social Innovation Review that the best model for social distribution through a for-profit company is what is called the buy one, give one model. It's kind of like a Tom Shoes, which is what that picture represents. Every time somebody buys a product, the company donates a product, and it's worked right into the top line revenues of the company. So the top line revenue stream generates that donation. It's not out of profit. It is off the top line. So buy one, give one. I read the book, How to Change the World, which was just amazing. Stories of how people are using this model to address global issues. And then one of the things that Mohammed Yunus said is the challenge with social business, because it is a for-profit business, is that profit taking in a for-profit business will always compete with your social business. He said, so if I had it to do all over again, what I would recommend to every social entrepreneur is start your for-profit from your not-for-profit, because then you don't have shareholders competing with that bottom line dollar. Your for-profit can actually fund your ministry. And I just thought that was brilliant. Next. My first desire, Oz, was to take it to the company that I had founded over 20 years ago and have them convert into a social business. And you had just mentioned earlier in the presentation that what I ran into is I was a publicly traded company at the time. And shareholder equity in a publicly traded company is what the board of directors is obligated to. So feeding children and protecting shareholder equity live on two different planets. So I left that company, joined up with another ministry out of South Korea called Nations Changers. And together we bought a company here in America and named it Alavea. Alavea in Texas is registered as a public benefit corporation, which is actually the proper structure for a social business in the state of Texas, but it's 100% owned by our not-for-profits. And so let me just tell you some of the things that we are doing. Number one, we make this Acemannan technology and other patented technologies available to the public so that we can supply that same advanced technology to children in need. And in the world today, there is not a bigger priority or a more acute awareness from a health perspective than a good functioning immune system. What we know as a result of the current pandemic that is going on is that those that have the worst experience by coming in contact with the virus are those that have pre-existing conditions or weakened immune systems. And if you have a pre-existing condition, you do have a weakened immune system. So as our for-profit starts building and distributing our product, we're finding more and more opportunities to combine our efforts with people in industry that can help us in this transformation of healthcare. For example, one of the things that you have to do for credibility standpoint is you have to participate with those that are doing medical research. Here's what we've learned in medical research over the last 20, 30 years is that nothing heals the human body better than the human body. We have cut the body, we have poisoned it, we have burned it, in an attempt to try to reduce the symptoms or get rid of chronic disease. And what we have found is that the best and most effective and safest way to do that is by supporting the body's normal functions of repair and regeneration. This is an organization we started working with a couple of years ago, the Brain and Body Foundation out of Nigeria. Sickle cell is the #1 disease in Africa. It's a gene-mediated disorder. It's the #1 reason that children die of gene-mediated disorders. And it's a genetic disease that collapses red blood cells, causes excruciating pain and death. Nothing touches this. I mean, there's not a drug out there that treats this disease. We did a pilot study a couple of years ago using Acemannan, and what we found is that the quality of life impact was basically unprecedented. These kids, all of a sudden, their pain started subsiding, their quality of life dramatically improved, and it was so significant that the government of Nigeria has now approved a multi-site clinical trial at medical schools in Nigeria utilizing our Acemannan for its quality of life impact. So it's not a treatment for sickle cell. Again, it's a genetic defect. We don't fix the gene. We just make the body work better around that defect. And that's where the relief comes from. Another organization that has teamed up with us, Oz, and again, we've only been in our Alavea branded company since May, but we met these guys, Operation Underground Railroad. And what they do is they save children out of the sex slave industry all over the world. And when they pull kids out of that environment, obviously these kids need to be rehabilitated. You know, they are spiritually, emotionally, and physically bankrupt, right? And they're exposed to all kinds of diseases as a result of the environment they've been in. So they put them in rehab centers that they support. And a good strategy for bringing a child back to life is boosting their immune system and letting their bodies start the process of healing itself. And so this is the strategy that they have picked for doing that, the Acemannan intervention. So we're working very closely with them. This is a fascinating relationship, Oz. We're now working with this organization called Dream for the Cure. In cancer research, the cutting edge of cancer research is called immunotherapy. And essentially what it is finding out how the immune system sees and destroys cancer and helping it do that. So when the immune cell, the macrophage, sees the cancer cell, it sends a signal to a B cell, which is another immune cell, to make an antibody. And you've probably heard the term antibodies in relation to the current pandemic. When your body finally detects the virus, it makes antibodies that attach to those viral cells and help the body more effectively destroy them. So in immunotherapy, they know that when people are afflicted with cancer, their immune systems are not functioning appropriately. So these antibodies aren't being made. They're not attaching to these tumor cells. And as a result, the cancer is not effectively being detected and dealt with in the body. And one day you wake up with a tumor, a clinical event. So with immunotherapy, they're identifying the structures of the antigens and they are making antibodies in the lab. It's called monocloning of antibodies. They're putting these antibodies back into the system just like you would do with the drugs they're now developing for the COVID virus. It's a very safe way of addressing and working with the immune system on addressing whatever the malady is. I met with the immunotherapist doing this research. Her name is Dr. Renee Herty. About 2 years ago, I was doing a presentation actually up near Rochester, Minnesota, which is where they do their research at the Mayo Clinic. And she said, I just have one question to ask you. We're actually looking for something that could enhance or optimize the efficacy of our monocloned antibodies because we're putting it into a patient that has a suppressed immune system. So I have one question for you. Does your Acemannan activate the macrophage? Isn't that an interesting question? She said, because if you can activate the macrophage, you can turn on all of the immunomodulatory functions of the immune system, proper up and down regulation, both pro and anti-inflammatory responses. If we can find something that is safe, non-toxic, that can activate the macrophage, it would be the best integrative support we could provide to our patient base. And so I showed her the science on Acemannan, and she was just blown away. She did her own little pilot study through Green for the Cure Foundation. And she called me back and she said, now this is going to take several years, but between the monocloning of antibodies and the support that Acemannan provides the immune system, I think we have the ability to completely obsolete the need for radiation and chemotherapy and cancer therapy. I mean, can you imagine having that kind of a technology base to look forward to in the years to come? So these are the types of relationships that you have to develop if you're going to be taken serious. Next. And then finally, and I'm just going to close with this. So we have the research community. We have the technology for individuals that are interested in having a better quality of life. But at some point, you've got to penetrate the organizations that are paying for sick care, the insurance industry, Medicare, Medicaid. The alternative to the insurance industry in this country is called Christian health share. They provide the same services, but at a much lower price because they're not for profits and they're actually sharing the cost and making no profit on doing that of meeting medical expenses. I met with these people, met them first about a year ago. It's a health share company out of Dallas, Texas. And we just were having an open discussion on a lot of different things. But one of the things they said is, you know, there's several health share companies in the industry. There's MediShare, there is Christian Health Share, there's Liberty. And they said, we think we offer better service than anybody else in the health share industry. But if you were us, how would you distinguish yourself? From a pure marketing standpoint, what would you do? And I thought about it for a minute and I said, I think what I would do is I would offer your customer base what they're all looking for and nobody in your industry is providing. I said, you know what they're all looking for? And of course, their answer was cheaper healthcare. I said, no, what they're looking for is the opportunity to never call you. They don't want to call you. The only reason they call you is when they're sick. So what they would like you to do is support their health. Even though this industry is called healthcare, I challenge you to find anybody that's really protecting health. Everybody is paying for sickness. And they thought about it and they said, well, how would you do that? And I said, with the world's best technologies. You know, you find out why the cell deteriorates and becomes sick, and you find the best nutrients in nature to protect the cell against that process. In other words, you relieve oxidative stress with the best antioxidant, not just an antioxidant, the best. You reduce the biomarkers of inflammation, which Time magazine called the secret killer, because it's tied to every degenerative disease process, chronic disease known to man. And you optimize immune system function. If you do those three things, you can keep people healthier than you can possibly imagine. And he said, how could we possibly do that? Next slide. I said, I'll work on it for you. Now, this is a year ago. So these are the ingredients that I found all over the world, Oz, and were donated to our company because we're a social business. First of all, in Mexico is where we have our Acemannan technology. Our Prolane technology, which is a beetroot extract, it's a patented process that addresses the biomarkers of inflammation better than any other natural anti-inflammatory nutrient. It is the best in the world. The best antioxidant in the world actually comes from a pine bark extract out of New Zealand. And when I say the best, they have the science to prove it. Otherwise, we wouldn't deal with it. All these are unique. They're patented or proprietary and protected by trade secrets. They were all donated to us for this project. When I found those three ingredients to deal with oxidative stress, which is why cells become cancerous, to deal with inflammation, to deal with a dysfunctional immune system. We needed a delivery system for those ingredients. And we found it in a substance called Manuka honey. Honey is antimicrobial, all honey is. But Manuka honey from New Zealand is 20 times more potent than any other honey in the world. When I say antimicrobial, it means that viruses, bacteria, fungus, mold cannot live in that environment. So it is the most potent natural antimicrobial. So we take all these ingredients and we put it into a chewable base of Manuka honey. It's an incredible product. And that is the product that I made for Alavea, and that is the product that is being used by OneShare. So here's what OneShare is going to do. They're going to open up the portal for a new base of members in their organization. And if you join their health share ministry through this portal, you'll get a free bottle of this every month. And what they're going to do is over the years, look at that group versus everybody else in their organization. And when they show that an investment in health is more effective than paying for disease, I'm telling you guys, that will be a major factor in transforming healthcare as we know it today. Next. So that's what Alavea is all about, guys. We supply that product, Celebrate to everyone. If you find that you've already got a health challenge, you should add more Immune, which is just more Acemannan at therapeutic levels to your daily regime. In other words, crank up your immune system and correct it from being dysfunctional to function. That's the story, Oz.
Sam, you have a number of products that we don't have time to go over in this call, but the social business, is it just related to Celebrate that product, or does it apply to other products as well?
It applies to every product in our product line. When we founded this business through our not-for-profits, we did it to fund our ministry. And so every product that is sold generates a 30-day supply of advanced immune support to children in need around the world.
Wow. That's impressive. So, you know, if you're watching this, God may be, you know, touching you in a number of areas, perhaps to transform your own health. You know, I'm 69 years old, and I'm looking for things that will help my immune system. The product that Sam had before was a good product, and I've been taking that for almost 8 years, and I rarely get sick. But perhaps there might be a catalyst to transform our nation's health system if we could join Sam in what he's doing, and even impact the world's children who are at risk to malnutrition. So doing a for-profit business. But I don't know if you caught what he said, that the for-profit is under a nonprofit. So you're not going to be involved in something that all the profits are just going to fill somebody's coffers. You know, now we have Brian Koopman on with us tonight, and Brian is with a ministry called Glory of Zion Ministries. And some of you may know Chuck Pierce, who has a prophetic ministry. And they recently heard of Sam's innovation, and you know, Chuck embraced Sam and just felt really a word of the Lord from the Lord on you know, this new technology that he had. And so I just brought Brian on. Brian, it's good to have you tonight, and tell us a little bit about kind of the backstory on all of this for you guys.
Right. Appreciate that. About a year ago in October, Sam was attending one of our services here at the Global Sphere Center. And Chuck, at the end of the service, just asked Sam to come up and his wife, Linda, just for a minute to share some of the exciting research that he was working on at that time, and that was the Dream for the Cure research with Dr. Renee Hurdy. And so Sam came up, he shared just a few minutes, a little bit on the science and how the work that he was doing was really helping transform not only science, health approach to immunity, but also the hand-in-hand impact it had for helping malnourished children around the world. And what he shared just really touched our hearts. And Chuck immediately said, this is something we want to be a part of to help support. And so at that time, Chuck's primary focus is not on pursuing business interests and ministry interests in that vein, but my wife and I were equally touched by it. And so Sam has suggested that my wife, Lori, and myself could assist Chuck, and that we would help Chuck develop a portal that people could learn more about Alivea, the work that Sam was doing. And so we've spent the last year helping Chuck develop that business in the sense of sharing that message with people. We've had Sam come back, and at our largest gathering of the year, that was in September, it's called Head of the Year. It's at the start of the Hebraic New Year. Chuck invited Sam back and gave him a whole speaking slot to share on the science behind what he was doing, and just make appeal to all the people that were on site, as well as those joining us all around the world, for how they could be a part of the vision of Alivea to transform their personal health, as well as to help kids all around the world. And so we've been a part of doing that for Chuck and the ministry. My wife, her parents are Dale and Barbara Wintrouble. Barbara Wintrouble, some of you might be familiar with. She also has a ministry. So Barbara helps lead and support her mom's down leg for Alivea. I help with Chuck here. And so it's just been an incredible opportunity for us personally as a ministry, and to reach out to others who want to be part of making a global impact.
That's awesome. And so, you know, the business model of this can support ministries. And so that's another thing that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Ford, I want to bring you in here and just see what insights you have about what you're hearing. And, you know, you overcame a major disease in your life, and it wasn't through the typical drugs, but it was through really innovation. And what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, I shared a little bit at the beginning of my life, the first 38, almost close to 40 years, and then what happened by going to that natural doctor. And I was healthier. My wife was telling people I was healthier then than I was when we met when she was 17 years old. And later, I ended up, I got sprayed with some pesticides, and I didn't know, but eventually they said I had pesticide poisoning. And from that point on, it's just like every time I would go somewhere, I'd get on an airplane, I'd get sick because my immune system just all of a sudden was shot again. Anyway, after a lot of tests, I mean, every test you can imagine, my doctor, my medical doctor, which I hadn't really had one in 20 years, but my homeopathic doctor was asking me to get some tests, different tests. I couldn't figure out what it was. Well, after just running every test you can imagine, telling me I had liver cancer, carcinoid tumor, brain, I mean, they diagnosed everything. They finally told me I wasn't sick. And the day they told me I wasn't sick, I threw up in their trash can and just kind of shook my head. Well, anyway, my wife was in a Bible study, and some of the ladies asked her, how's Ford? And she started crying. She said, I'm losing my husband. And just to make a long story much, much shorter, it turned out that I had chronic debilitating Lyme disease. I mean, there were days that I couldn't write my own name. I couldn't get out of bed. I was told by the medical community that once you reach this point, there is no coming back. You'll never have your full life back again. You might get back to 50 or 60%. Well, I can tell you, after going hard after natural solutions, because there's no medicines for Lyme that help. If you get it in the first 30 days, there's something that can help it. But once it takes longer than that to diagnose it. And so after going hard after the immune system, I used some Rife technology. But anyway, I now have 100% of my life back. I got my health back completely. I came back from, just to give you just a short one, I came back from Ethiopia, and I was gone for 11 days. And I flew over there. I did a 2.5-day training that rested that afternoon, did another 2.5 day, flew for a day, went to another part of the country and did another 2.5 day, and then flew back home. So in that 11-day period, this is after they tell me you'll never come back. I came home and I told my wife, I said, honey, I'm a little bit tired. And she goes, hang on, you're 60 years old. Look what you just did. And you're only a little bit tired. Because, just a couple of years before that, I could hardly even get out of bed. So Oz, I've started taking this, a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to stay on it. There's ways to test whether it's good for your body or not. And all my family tested on all of them. And it tested, well, all of them that I've seen, I got 2 more, and it tested strong on all of them. So I'm gonna add this to what I've already been doing. And like I told you on the phone today, I don't want to get too excited yet, but about 10 days after I started taking it, again, I want to be careful, but I actually started feeling better. And I told you today, I want to be real careful about saying that too soon, but I actually even got another little boost up. So I 100% believe that the answer to the health treatment in America is going to come through the natural care. We're going to go back to where we were back when Jesus was on earth, when there were no pharmaceuticals. I do believe that our current president was headed that direction, and whether he'll get to finish or not, who knows? It's all up in the air right now. But I know that we are the solution. Us as believers, we got to quit being the problem, and we got to become the solution. And I think Sam, in my opinion, has come up with one of them to head in the right direction. So thank you, Sam, for all the hard work and all the years of commitment to get to this place.
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
one of the things Sam said, I don't know if you caught that, but he said, if you're in generally decent health and just want to get healthier and build up your immune system, then taking Celebrate every day is what you want to do. And that's what I'm doing. But if you have a health issue and need to reclaim your health because of some type of issue, then you want to combine that with immune because it just gives you more. Am I saying that right, Sam?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a dose response to Acemannan. The poorer your health, the more that you need to recover.
So you can't take too much that would hurt you in any way because you're just getting food, right?
Yeah, it's a polysaccharide. You're just getting food, and what your body doesn't use for immune activation, it uses as a prebiotic in your gut. So you're either getting better gut health or better immune function.
Yeah. We've got a number of questions coming in. We're going to take those in just a minute. If you have questions, post it on either Q&A or the chat area. So there's really 3 ways you can be involved with this product. The first one is just buying the product, and you can get the product, online at this website below, or you can be an affiliate, like Amazon. You can just be an affiliate. You can sign up as an affiliate, and as you share it with others, you get money toward offsetting the cost of your own product. And then the third way is being a social business partner. And this is where you really become a social entrepreneur and helping others, get healthy and really taking back what the devil's trying to steal from our nation and from our kids and so forth. And so all of that can be found on the site. Sam, do you have anything to say about the social business partner program?
Well, Oz, you just mentioned the 3 ways: just be a customer, be an affiliate, which means you're an influencer, and you could be a healthcare professional, and utilize this for integrative health support. What I found out is the most aggressive form of social business is called 3.0. And what that means is that's a system that allows ordinary people to build teams and teams of teams for the rapid circulation of new ideas that can change the world. And that's really what we compensate, is just people that are willing to share with some other people both the opportunity as well as the technology base itself. And actually, that's what Brian and Chuck are doing. They do all of the above. They are social entrepreneurs. They do have huge influence on a consumer base. So they got tremendous numbers of the consumers. But they're also building a group of people who want the opportunity to participate and profit from social business. And that's what a social business partner has the ability to do.
Yeah, that's good. There's a couple of questions on here, some about the Joseph calling in general. Do we need to have a time in the pit or prison or persecution to live a Joseph calling? Is it a time of adversity? Is a time of adversity needed by God to prepare us? You know, not everybody has a Joseph calling. We'll all have some level of adversity in our Christian life. The Bible promises that, but not all of us have a Joseph calling. A Joseph calling is an extreme season of adversity, and your life is earmarked by that adversity. Um, Second question, do you sell in Amazon? I think the answer to that's no, isn't it? Because you're trying to build this program for people who want to use this business to help other people and help themselves. But you're also in other countries. How many countries are you in?
We're probably in 8 countries right now.
8 countries. So when you go on the website and purchase, it tells you, it asks you which country you're from, so that
Correct.
you can qualify to see whether you qualify to either be in the, program or just buy the product. Anybody can buy the product, right?
Exactly.
Bob asked, may we expect a recording? He's got to go somewhere else. Yep, we're doing a replay tomorrow, and we'll be sending out a link to that replay. You'll get a notice on that. All right. Jonathan says, I'm a former NFL professional. Have athletes been involved? Have athletes been involved in your product? I guess that's what he means.
You know, it's interesting. When I very first introduced Acemannan to the market, I got a call from the head track coach at University of Houston, whose name was Tom Telez. And he was the coach for the U.S. Olympic team. And what he said was, he called me and he said, listen, my world-class sprinters, which were Leroy Burrell and Carl Lewis and Joe Deloche and Mike Marsh, he said they're starting to enhance their recovery times, work out longer, and take fractions of seconds off their world-class times. Can you explain to me why that's happening? And so I did. And then they introduced me to USA Track and Field, and we provided our products. This is Acemannan, same product, to the Olympic teams. We've also worked with several, particularly former NFL players. In fact, I did a study on the Retired Players Association. We used the chapter in Phoenix, basically because of their debilitating conditions that, were a result of their physical contact years in the NFL. We had tremendous response from the Retired Players Association on quality of life impact of just about everything that you can possibly imagine that these players go through. We have not worked officially with the NFL, if that was the question. Would love to, but as a social business, we don't pay big fees out. We find people that are interested in changing their own lives and helping us change the lives of children. And right now, the opportunity has not come up to participate with pro sports. But we have dealt with a lot of former professional and amateur athletes.
Yeah, several people are asking where to get the product. The website is down at the bottom of the page, myimmunecare.myalovia.com. You can buy the product there. You can see all of the products that he has. How many different products do you have now, Sam?
We probably have like 5 or 6 different supplements. And then we have some whole food products that use whole food nutrients in them instead of synthetics, like food bars and shakes and things like that. But our primary technology is what we showed you tonight.
Yeah. So you can go there. You can learn about the social business. You can learn about the social business. This is the actual front page of the website. If you go, the page on the social business, but hit join us if you want to learn about the affiliate program or the social business. Hit products if you want to learn about all the products. And it's a great website, easy to get around. Um, Mark is asking, is the product available in Canada, wishing to supply our food bank clients, children?
It is available
All right.
in Canada.
Yeah. Christine says, given so many in the US are overweight, when should one use Reboot? You might explain what Reboot is.
Well, a reboot is a combination of products that basically do everything we talked about tonight, plus heal your gut. About 85% of the people in this country are sugar burners. And what that means is their metabolism burns sugar instead of fat. Your bodies were designed to burn fat as their primary source of fuel. But through poor diet, we have become sugar burners, and it's almost impossible to get any kind of consistent fat burning going on. And so we have a program which is called the Reboot, and there's actually a technical explanation for it online that takes people through the process of a 30-day reboot, where we're giving them optimal nutrition, whole food nutrients, the right levels of healthy fats and proteins and fiber and lower levels of carbohydrates and the immune support, the inflammatory biomarker reduction, the antioxidant, all those things for 30 days. And then we also show people how to eat in a way that will support a fat burning metabolism. And that's what a reboot is, Oz.
Yeah. So one of the challenges in this industry is when you have a positive effect on something, you can't take credit for it, take credit for it in the sense that you healed a disease. And you see all these disclaimers on TV that the pharmaceutical industry has made sure is there. And so you have to be very careful about how you explain a product. But and that's why I say that in leading to this next question. And Khan says, is there any data reported to its effect on dementia or Alzheimer's yet?
Well, the answer to that question is what we do is quality of life impact studies. And the reason we do quality of life is we're not looking for a treatment or a cure. That's a drug effect. What we're looking for is through nutritional intervention, can your body respond in a positive way? And for Alzheimer's, we did a quality of life impact study at the University of Miami several years ago and had a great quality of life impact from the intervention of Acemannan. So, yeah, and you know what? You could attach that question to any known disease in the world, and the answer will always be the same. Your body heals itself. We don't sell a drug. We don't alter blood pressure. We don't alter blood sugar levels. We don't do any of that. We support your body's ability to maintain optimal health, optimal immune function. And again, I don't care what you're dealing with, the human body heals itself of what? Of everything, if it's supported appropriately.
Yeah. I want to go back to the social business partners. Some people have been very severely affected by the COVID situation. And, it's always good to have multiple income streams. And this might be a great one that is very consistent with your need to, heal your body or, make sure that you've got a great immune system. And so this is a great product, and it's a great way to invest in kids around the world too, that you're making a difference as a social entrepreneur around the world. So,
well, Oz, let me just say this on that. There could not be a better opportunity in the world than a technology base that could transform healthcare. There's nobody out there that's happy with our system. Nobody. It's too expensive, too ineffective, too toxic. And if there is a science-based solution that you have to be very careful from a regulatory standpoint, how you present, but you can always present structure function. You can say all day long that we support the immune system and show the science of it. But if we're really in that process of transforming healthcare, that's a $10 trillion industry. Who would like to know about that? And who would like to be involved in the business of sharing that message of hope? That's who we're looking for.
Yeah. So somehow I clicked on the wrong page.
I was going to make a quick comment.
Yes.
If you would put your website texted into the chat where people can click on it. There's been a couple of questions like, what's the difference with this? This is Oz's site, so that anything that's purchased will help support Oz and his ministry. Because you can get on this site and it belongs to somebody else, or it belongs to nobody. So I would think it'd be good to channel them in directly into your site, Oz.
Sure. Yeah, let me make a copy of that and do that. In fact, we should explain that Ron, you are here to help people answer questions and just help them in the process. In fact, we're going to have a follow-up meeting on this whole area that will be September the 18th at 7 p.m. And we'll have people from Alovia talk about the social business partner program and how you can be involved in that or an affiliate. And so you'll get an email from us about that webinar. And so Ron is a great friend and been with us for many years and is our area director there in California. And so we've taken a good many questions here. I think we'd still have a few to ask. Here's one that's very interesting. Let's see. From Elia, just curious, is it possible that Acemannan is connected to the manna molecule God gave to the Israelites, which the Bible referenced it as the bread of heaven and the food of angels that needed to be gathered daily, otherwise it would spoil? By the way, the Bible says that the Israelites never got sick while in the wilderness. Just wondering.
Well, in the Bible, it describes manna as a white powdery substance with a sweet taste. So, and if it's there to support your every need from a cellular standpoint, it had to have mannose in it because your body has to have it. And so it's kind of interesting that the manna would be destroyed the very next day, and so is Acemannan. So Acemannan and aloe vera, if you pick it, it's gone the next day. I just find that interesting, that parallel. So the patents that protect the processing of Acemannan were basically to stabilize it.
Yeah. All right. So some people are saying that that link didn't work. What you want to do is just go to the link that was on the page, enter it into your browser, myimmunecare.myalovia.com, and that should bring you to that site. If it doesn't, don't use the www, just use the those letters, and I know it will go using that. So, all right.
Hey, Oz,
Yeah.
I have to get off to get on another call. I certainly enjoyed this tonight. And if you want to do a follow-up call to drill down deeper sometime on some of the technologies, I know today was a 30,000-foot view. I just appreciate you choosing to do this, Oz and Ron. Thanks for your help. And everybody associated with you guys. For everybody listening tonight, blessings to you. And thank you, Oz.
All right. Thank you, Sam. And thank you, everybody, for being on the call. And again, we'll be contacting you, let you know when there's a replay and other information. Ford, thank you for participating tonight. And Brian, appreciate your joining in and giving us your insights as well. So we're going to go ahead and sign off because we're a little bit over tonight. But take care. God bless you. And if we can answer any questions, let me just take you to one last slide. I think I have Ron Hart here. So here's Ron Hart's email address, ron@ronhart.us, and his phone number is 831-320-0602. If you want to, ask specific questions, Ron can help you with that. So take care, everybody. God bless. We'll see you next time.